Well, good evening once again, and welcome to the Monday Review Show. Well, first of all, let me start off by wishing you all a very, very Merry Christmas and a peaceful and happy New Year. And also say a big thank you to all of you who have contributed to the show in some way or other, whether you've been a special guest like my regular guest now, Keith, or whether you've just putting in some comments during the year. I really, really do appreciate it. And what a year it has been. I was going to review some of the incidents of the year, but perhaps we'll leave that a little bit later because what a World Cup. I mean, it's just incredible. What do you make of it, Keith? Just fantastic, wasn't it?
It was terrific. I mean, the media have said very clearly that this is the best World Cup final that they've ever seen. I think I agree with them. It ebbed and flowed. The two big names perform well. There's no question. If someone gets an hat-trick and he's on the losing team,
amazing.
Generally I thought the behaviour of the players, apart from the goalkeeper, Argentinian goalkeeper at the taking of penalty kicks. We'll probably get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
The referee was superb.
Superb.
To have a tournament of such magnitude, a game that flowed. I want everybody to be aware that this referee contributed positively to the game flow of the game. He read the game brilliantly. He was always in good positions. And if you're in good positions, your accuracy improves. There was one occasion when he received a bit of criticism when he actually stopped the game and didn't apply what was an advantage in part of the game. And some have criticised him for that. I make this point. The player who had been fouled was on the ground. There were opponents around him. And at that point, the referee's got to make a judgment. Do I go for game flow or am I putting my control at risk? And I think he judged it well. He stopped the game. He didn't have a blowout. He got to the scene of the problem, issued the yellow card, and that was the end of the matter. If he'd have played advantage, there's always at risk of losing control.
And Keith, of the 6 goals that were scored in normal time and extra time, 3 of them were penalties.
Yes.
And there was no protests. None or little of any protests.
That first penalty kick said it all. He was on the edge of the penalty area. He'd read it. He probably had the best view in the house, sideways on. And he was instantly pointing to the penalty mark. He sold me. I didn't need a replay. We got the replay, and then it confirmed. This is the difficulty that modern referees face, and that is that touch. The player will go down easily. What he did, this forward, cleverly was got in front of the defender. And at that time, what some attackers do, instead of chasing for the ball, they put the brakes on and they invite that contact. And the referee's there, he's judged it. These are not easy calls for referees. The other 2, I think, equally was spot on with his decision making.
And he didn't go to VAR once for the 3 penalties.
Amazing. He got good VAR operators. They might have been whispering in his ear.
Wow.
Which who knows? But ultimately, his all body language said to me, I'm buying in. We're experienced referees, you and I, but I'm buying into his decisions. I'm buying in because of his positive body language, his position and proximity to play, and the flow of accuracy of decisions that he was making. And, if you don't put the effort in this game, any game that you're officiating, if you don't have high levels of work rate and, you rest on your laurels, you're dead in the water. This guy, sustained it right through the game and through extra time and didn't look phased at all, didn't look tired, didn't look fatigued. And when you consider that it's not long ago that this guy had to take time out of football because of a heart condition that thankfully was put right, it's remarkable.
Just one of the penalties, Keith, that I managed to get a hold of. This one here, and again, the referee was spot on, didn't ask for VAR. Maybe they were whispering in his ear, but he never had this. Let's wait 3-4 minutes, bloody half an hour. It seems like sometimes. Oh no,
Yeah.
now I've got to go over to all this nonsense.
Yeah.
This one here. Now, it's not great footage, but you can see where the player in red caught the player in white, just caught him around the calf.
Yes.
Just coming there.
Yes. Yeah.
Croatia, and it was the playoff. Just show it again. I normally play these 3 times. Now there, just caught him, and people said, "Oh no penalty. He's diving," but he clearly caught him on his left leg, the Croatian player's left leg, and a clear penalty. And I wish people would understand, and perhaps some do, or perhaps they don't want to, because it suits them, that a free kick anywhere else on the field is a penalty kick. A direct free kick, of course, is a penalty kick inside the penalty area. And how many times have we seen referees pull out of making that vital decision of giving a penalty kick and waving it off? Whereas if it was in the center of the park, they would give a free kick. So why not give a penalty kick? And just one issue there, Keith.
Yes.
Victor Gomez from South Africa.
Yes.
He was heavily criticized a couple of years ago. He had given 11 penalties in 4 games, 5 in 1 game, and they were all spot checked. And of the 5 he gave in the 1 game, 4 were proven to be absolutely correct. The 5th one, not necessarily 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that order, but the 5th penalty that he gave, people said, well, maybe this, maybe that. But the thing is, he had the guts to do it.
Yes.
And he did it. And based on that principle that we just mentioned a moment ago, if it's a free kick, direct free kick outside the box, it's a penalty inside the box. Simple as that. Yeah. And I think if referees would apply themselves a little bit more, I think there would be a lot more penalties given than there are currently being given.
Yeah. I thought Victor Gomez did really well in the World Cup. And I think great credit to him. He's a very professional referee in his approach to the game. He communicates well. I was delighted to see him there, of course, having met him. But he's a gent, and credit to him for representing his country and doing so well at the World Cup. Mm-hmm. On the penalty kicks, I think there was the one early on. I think it was England versus Iran, when we talked about Maguire being wrestled to the ground, a penalty kick not given. There was an interesting one involving, I think it was England, France, might have been, when, yes, it was England, France, when Harry Kane was fouled. Nothing was given. Everybody was looking for a penalty kick. And what was interesting about this was the feet was outside the penalty area, but the contact point with the upper leg of Kane just behind the knee was clearly inside the penalty area. So I was surprised that both VAR and the referee did not give a penalty kick in that situation. But these things happen, but they shouldn't happen at the elite level.
Yeah. And as you mentioned in the notes that you sent me, thanks very much, England-Iran, where Harry Maguire was literally wrestled to the ground.
Yes.
I mean, where are these referees looking? And what are the VAR guys doing? Because they would have a better view of it, being in close and different cameras from different angles, etc.
Yeah.
Why weren't they whispering in his ear?
I think that, I think the MLS guys who operated on the VAR role did really well. I don't think FIFA can come away from this competition satisfied that VAR is operating as well as it should operate. I think there's still a standard to be reached, and we're not there. Now, I think that is because there still seems to me to be an inconsistency in terms of what is a clear and obvious error. And there seems in some cases, some VARs only too happy to get involved immediately, and there are others who are there to assist when called upon. And I just think that we came out of the World Cup with the final and the VAR not having to be used, but there's some games in this tournament where VAR should have come in to assist the referee, because in my opinion, there were clear and obvious errors.
I mean, goodness, when you and I started off, we were alone in a park on a Sunday morning, no assistance, and trying to do offsides and everything. Now,
Correct.
there's 9 people involved in every game, 4 on the field, and 5 up in the box, wherever they are.
Yeah.
I mean, and you know, this is where I have great admiration for this referee. He never consulted them, as his right. He doesn't have to consult them. He has the final say, according to Law 5. And he made his decision, and he never asked for assistance. And I think it was his positivity,
correct,
that convinced the players that I'm right. Because normally you'd get a particularly with, you know, I hate to mention countries' names because I'm going to get lambasted, I'm sure. But countries like South America and even some in Europe as well, where they crowd around the referees. Trying to get them to change their mind, which they're not going to do, of course. Rarely, if ever, do. But now that VAR is there, it sort of gives them the opportunity to change their mind if they want to. But this referee never consulted VAR. Not obviously, anyway, we couldn't see it.
Well,
of him pointing to the spot and being so sure of what he was doing, I think that convinced the players as well.
Yeah, I think the way he communicated with players was positive. He gave them, and you could see him giving them respect, and they gave him respect. You know, and I'm always mindful of you know, there was one area where I was slightly concerned because, you know, the star player at the World Cup is Messi. And I just thought on one or two occasions, the referee was a bit, not the final referee, but some referees have got a bit too close to Messi. And it looked as though Messi was actually talking to them in a pictorial way that says, just a minute, he's getting his two penneth in with the referee. Is that influencing the referee? I don't think it was in the final. I think he handled him extremely well. But I do believe that VAR is not operating well. I was pleased that within this final, within the tournaments, FIFA had quietly allowed footage that was being used by VAR to be seen on mobiles within the stadium. You know, they quietly announced that sometime afterwards. They didn't make a big public scene of it. Now, I hope that's going to follow through in other leagues across the world. But again, you know, we still got this overindulgence. You know, and you know, the worst performance of the World Cup was the Spanish referee with his 18 yellow cards and 1 red, where, you know, I think you and I were taught that 4's too many, and when you get into 5 and 6, Keith, the pocket's going towards the reds next time.
Absolutely.
And that's how we were brought up, and in a way, I think that had a positive effect on us as referees, because we're saying, right, we want to avoid the 5 and 6. We weren't handing them out with confetti. We were giving them when they were deserved.
Yeah. I remember being told after 3, the next one is red, regardless. And that's the only way to put a stop to it. Or alternatively, as you have rightly mentioned a couple of times in our off-air conversations, that he could have called the two captains together and said, listen, guys, this is getting ridiculous now. You either buck up or the next one's going to be red. And lay the law down to them in a quiet but firm and assertive way. But I always liked this referee, having watched him in Champions League games and so on. I always thought he was a very good referee.
Yes.
These two teams contrived, either together or separately, to absolutely destroy him. That he found that all the fouls that were being committed weren't quite red cards, but were borderline. And there was one particular incident, actually, Keith, in the game against Netherlands, where one of the Argentinian players belted the ball into the opposition's technical area.
Yes,
that is surely violent conduct, and could
that was completely missed. I think I was concerned about the celebration, the over celebration of goals, where the technical area with occupants were running right across the pitch.
Yeah.
And interestingly, I had a note from somebody today asking a question. If a team has 12 players on the pitch, what happens? And I asked him why was he asking that question, and he sent me a photograph. I haven't got it to hand, but he was referring to the fact that a substitute player had actually come out of the technical area and was standing on the field of play and saying, surely he's the 12th player and the game should have been abandoned at that point.
Now, was that during the taking of kicks?
I don't know when it was.
Yeah.
To be honest, I don't know when it was, but it was just a clip. It was a clip, a photograph, and it was a comment. And I assumed that was during the course of the match, not necessarily the taking of penalty kicks. But I might be wrong.
There's a very good friend of mine here who's a very well-known and respected journalist here in Ireland, and he also does reports for Euronews. And he phoned me and he said to me, did you see or did you notice, and I didn't, that during the taking of kicks from the penalty spot to decide the game, he said there were 4 Argentinian substitutes on the pitch. He said, is that allowed? I said, absolutely not. Only the players who finished the game are allowed on the field together with the match officials, not even the trainers, coaches, watermen, whatever. Nobody, only the players. He said there was 4 of them. I said, well, his name is Ken Murray. And I said, Ken, are you sure? He said, yeah, I saw them. I said, well, I was watching. I didn't see it. So fair play to your eyesight. I didn't see it, but absolutely not. And also, Keith, just can we elaborate on that? When a goal is scored, there's a cavalry charge onto the field of play. Why is this being tolerated?
Well, I think there were certain areas. I think that FIFA have got to deal with this. I think I can understand the referees saying I've got enough on my plate without having to be involved and embroiled in having to deal and manage that situation. But it does come under his control. And therefore, I do think that FIFA should and could have taken action earlier in the tournament to prevent this over-exhilaration, if you like, however you put it, of this celebration of a goal where either the subs who are warming up and some of the players that have already been subbed, taken in the game, suddenly running on. We saw it with Argentina. And then the other aspect is, of course, we saw Uruguay and dealing with that referee in a way that I think the authorities should have come out pretty quickly and said, right, we're going to sanction Uruguay. I generally thought disciplinary within this tournament, if you remember previous World Cups, they've almost been the following day, this player suspended, and as that information comes out, there was none of that. There appeared to be no information in terms of how are they going to deal with Uruguay and this particular problem. Who knows,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. I thought they were very weak and showed extreme weakness on that particular aspect, not doing the referees any favors. So then the referees, if they take action, are they going to be, well, I can't find the word, penalized by the powers that be for being overzealous? On the issue of the players running on the field, the fourth official is there.
Yes.
I mean, he has a job to do to control the benches.
Yes.
Maybe control is the wrong word for all the politically correct people out there, but I'm going to use the word control because that's what needs to be done. And he should be telling them, do not run on the field when a goal is scored to celebrate.
Yeah.
Because
I think being proactive is something that they needed to be.
Yeah.
But I thought throughout the tournament, in previous tournaments, we've seen Pierluigi Collina, who I admire as a referee, coming out and clarifying situations and adding to, referee education in a positive way. We haven't necessarily seen that this World Cup. We've not seen him come out and sort of say, these are the areas that we're looking at, or making any form of comment in terms of refereeing. Whereas I think he could have come out on a few occasions and said, look, this referee's done really well today.
Yeah.
The team of officials.
I've been disappointed with Collina. I've always admired him as a referee.
Yes.
Suddenly now, when he's been appointed as head of FIFA referees, he appears to have gone over to the other side, inverted commas, and gone to the political side and has almost deserted the referees. I thought he would have maintained his independence and say, I've been a referee, I'm now head of referees, so I'm going to stick to the referees. But he seems to have become very political, soft political, if you like, and seems to be siding with the other side. That disappointed me now, I must say.
Yeah, I think that he's a referee of character. He was an outstanding referee, and when he ran the UEFA referees committee, advanced causes in many directions. But at the end of the day, I think there could have been positive comments. How he saw the artificial intelligence semi-automated system, how has he felt that has been operated during the course of the tournament. As I say, I think there was some outstanding performances. Maybe he could have come to the defense of the Spanish referee in some format.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, as referees, we've all had in different games. We've all had games that have been very difficult, sometimes of our own making, and we're reluctant to admit it. But I just felt that the Spanish referee was exposed a little bit, and a couple of days later, there was the cut, and therefore he was on the plane home. And he's better than that. That the Spanish referee, for all the criticism I've given him, he is a better match official than we saw on the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not an indifferent game. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we all know that if you've got 22 players who want to play football, like they did in the final, it's easier generally to referee.
Of course.
If you've got 22 players who don't want to play and they're not showing the respect for the referee, and the actions of the referee didn't win the respect of the players, let's make that clear. So he was culpable in that. I just felt that there are many learning points that could have been got over to other referees around the world. When referees do have difficult times, that's the point at which you can actually educate lots of referees to avoid some of the pitfalls in officiating. Yeah,
and you mentioned, Keith, in your interview with an Indian television station about artificial semi-automated offside decision making. You think it'll be introduced in the Premier League?
Well, I think it will eventually. I think it's proven quite efficient in this tournament. The area that concerned me was when there were two major errors in this tournament, in my opinion, major. I think we had Matthew Conga, the New Zealand referee, where he restarted play. The law is clear. You can only stop the game then to go back if there's been an act of violent conduct. But what he did was he started the game after France had scored, and then went back to review what was an offside decision and gave the offside and disallowed the goal. Totally wrong in law in that situation. So I'm hoping that will be clarified at some particular point. Then we had that ball, I think France-Japan, was it out of play? And we had this helicopter view, if you remember, of the ball just touching. There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
it's 4 different angles now.
Yeah. If you're using camera technology, I have to say, in a moving ball, you're not going to get that level of accuracy. So I'm concerned about the judgment of that particular decision, because there has to be, and there is, an element of width, if you like, error within anything that's produced. And therefore, I'm still dissatisfied with that one. I think France had claimed that ball was out of play. So
yeah. You see the one on the bottom left there, Keith?
Yes.
Blown up a little bit. But that clearly indicates that technically that ball is not out of play.
Correct. Absolutely.
So,
I don't have any issue with these actual film clips. I don't have an issue because I think they clarify. My issue is I feel uncomfortable that some hours after this particular game, that image appeared. That's where I'm uncomfortable, because ultimately the assistant referee gave this ball out. The technical aspects of what was available to the VAR did not match that particular photograph. I have doubts about it because I understand the accuracy. I worked on goal line technology, unfortunately, and therefore I can see it with perhaps a little more knowledge than most people. So I'm uncomfortable with that decision. If the assistant says the ball's out of play from his position, I'm going with it. I recognise that you can actually produce something afterwards that shows something that says the ball's in. I'm sceptical about that particular film clip and that decision in that game.
Isn't this one of the downsides, if you like, or upsides of VAR, in that it will pick up these incidents to show that the ball had not left the field of play? So whether I just put it up again, whether it's like this, which is millimeters, or even 1 millimeter, or 100 miles, it's still in play. So, and many times, I'm sure assistants, and it only applies to the goal line technology. It doesn't apply to touchline technology. How many times has the ball gone down the touchline, and the assistants have flagged it out of play, when in fact, if there was that sort of semi-automated, offside decision-making system in place, how many balls down the touchline would still be in play, even though it appeared to the naked eye that they were out of play? So again, it's part of VAR, isn't it? And what do you do? You have VAR or you don't?
Well, they made reference to goal line technology. If you look at goal line technology and how it is calibrated, it is 7 cameras around each goal, specifically looking at a rectangle from various angles. And the goalposts, I may have said this before, the goalposts aren't the actual goalposts that we see on the field. They are on the system, the software system program, drawn in vertically. And the reason behind that is that goalposts invariably are not vertical and parallel. So you have this
point. That's a very interesting point.
So that's why early in the goal line technology, we threw out the idea of cameras in goalposts because of the flexing of the actual post. Reference was made that because they could use the goal line technology to determine that decision. Well, I doubt that, because the goal line technology, 7 cameras, do not have a vertical camera overlooking. It might look horizontal to the goalpost or inwards. So it's possible to have a camera or goal line technology operating outside the goalposts, but currently the system is for the goals only, with the goalpost drawn into the software, where the ball is photographed. And I might say that the other side of it is, to help the goal line technology, the ball has to have patterns on it. You'll notice there are patterns there. Those patterns help the actual goal line technology, because it gives you some depth in terms of the ball, and it also picks up the outer circumference of the ball to then make a mathematical trajectory of the speed of the ball and the movement and where it finishes up. So it's quite a complex piece of technology.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course the uprights are not necessarily always correctly up. They might be leaning back a little bit.
Correct.
It does say crosses the line between the uprights and below the crossbar. So are they basing it when it crosses the line, or are they basing that the line is level, if you like, with the crossbar? It may not necessarily be so.
Right. What it does effectively is it takes the back of the goal line, not the front, not the width of the goal line. The back line is the datum point, which follows through to the goalpost. So you've got a straight line drawn and a vertical set of vertical lines going up the appropriate 8 feet to the underside of the crossbar. And that is the datum point. You have a ball where the outer circumference of the ball is captured on video, and then a set of mathematical equations, and as it's moving, it in a software program projects the speed of the ball, the trajectory of the ball, and then indicates that when the outer circumference has crossed over that back line, right, with some tolerance, it's a goal. And it's that tolerance that I'm talking about when you look at a ball. Is it out of play beyond the goal line? And okay, I'm arguing. No, I'm not. I'm discussing what is important in terms of when technology is used. It has to be accurate, and it has to be an honest assessment of a photograph. And you're right to explain why it's deemed in play. My question was, why did it take so long for that photograph to be produced? Because a VAR operator said it was inside the field of play. He didn't have the technical equipment to hand to be able to say that as accurately as the lines that on that photograph. I'll say no more.
There was one other. Where was I wanted to talk? No, that's, I've seen that one already. Was it this one here? Yeah. Now I'm still getting comments and questions. Ronaldo, and I think, did we discuss it in length last week, or did we discuss it now? People are still calling me and saying, but I said, look, in my opinion, the two players touched the ball at the same time, and Ronaldo, as he does, went down. The other player stayed on his feet. So just show it again. In my opinion, the two players, their feet come together at the same time and they play the ball. In my opinion, the only thing to be decided here is it a goal kick or a corner kick, not a penalty kick.
Yeah. I at the time I didn't see that as a penalty kick. One of the areas that I think is worthy of discussion at some point with the lawmakers is, because they're now going into greater detail, is, did number 4 let us take away the feet scenario and go to the upper body, because I think that, was that coming together by four? Was that a charge into the back of the opponent? Was it illegal? Was it legal? You know, and again, what we've got is this, we've got this spread, haven't we? That against Harry Kane's wrestling to the ground is mild.
Yeah.
And this is the balance we've got. Oh, we're allowing upper body contact to be made with strength. And what we are saying is the game has changed in that strength is now part of the skill. And what I'm trying to say is football is about skill, and that's why it's called football, right? You play with your feet and your skill, and you don't use the weight of the body to gain an unfair advantage. So we get into the question of what is a push? And can the push be made with the flat palm of the hand? We know that if the arm is at the elbow is bent and straightens, we know that is the action of a push, the forward movement of a push. But what we've now got is we've got the players using their shoulder, not on the shoulder of their opponent, but in the back of an opponent. We've got them putting their arm over the shoulder of their opponent to prevent elevation upwards. I think this is an area where, again, the football authorities have got to say, are we happy that this, if you like, strength is balanced out with skill and we're going to continue to allow it? Or is it going to lead towards a creepage where we've seen grappling, holding them and blocking in the penalty area, going unpunished, where we've now got rugby challenges going unpunished because of the creep? And I think this is where the authorities have to come in and say, there's a boiling kettle, it's now too hot and steaming, and we've got to pull it back a bit.
Mm.
And that is coaching and education, coming from FIFA and the IFAB towards its referees and the other stakeholders in the game. Because at the moment, it's leaning too much towards strength, outgunning skill.
This is a little bugbear of mine, Keith. And and people say referees say I'm getting too hot under the collar about it. But I really do believe referees obviously have to be seen to be fair and honest. And to do that, they have to be objective. And to see this, see the referee?
Yeah.
I am wholly and totally and absolutely against referees taking, well, first of all, he took the bottle. He did, I presume he asked permission. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, because nobody handed it to him. He just went and took it. But what is wrong with the fourth official running on with a bottle of water to him during a break and then running off again? To me, that it always appears. Now, I refereed in South Africa for many years, and I know the people there, and I know how suspicious they can be of referees if they're even seen to be in any way associating with one team over the other. And getting a drink of water out there would definitely be seen, because the next time he gives a free kick against the opposing team, they say, oh, well, he was taking their water bottle, and so on. I'd love to hear your opinion. My opinion is absolutely no way. You never see a judge, and we are judges at the end of the day.
Right.
We are judges. We have to make decisions between, if you like, in legal terms, for the prosecution or the defense. You never see the judge talking to the prosecution or the defense before a case.
Correct.
Why are referees allowing themselves to be sucked into what could become a controversy? And putting themselves, I can't find the word, but I don't think they should be doing it. My opinion.
I've got two experiences to draw back on. The first one was I was refereeing a tournament in Mexico City. I think it was the World Youth Cup, something like that. And I was at the halfway line at the toss-up, the toss of a coin, right? So I was stood there. I blew for the two captains to come. And one of the captains came up very quickly. I shook his hand. The other captain was rather delayed. And so I moved off the halfway line towards the circumference of the center circle to usher the player for the coin toss. And afterwards, I was absolutely blasted by the match assessor at the game, a very experienced referee, who said, "Keith, I'm going to show you the film." And look, I was totally naive, even though I was a FIFA referee. I was naive to the view. And the guy said to me, "Look, you've moved towards this team.
Yeah.
You're showing them a favor." And I'm going, "No." But the picture told the story. So I was always mindful of that thereafter. In that same tournament, a very, very good referee, Rolf Eriksson from Sweden, and he was a marathon runner, right? And he put a bottle of water at the side of the pitch for him. The game stopped. It was a fairly warm afternoon. The game stopped. He ran to the touchline to take a drink of water. The French assessor at the game, right, turned to me. I was the fifth official. I hadn't got a game. I was in the technical area. And he said to me, "This referee will not referee again in this competition. This is out of order." And I've gone, "But he's taking a drink. He shouldn't have a drink. He can have a drink. He can have a refreshment at half time." Rolf was an athlete. By that I mean a very good marathon distance runner. He knew the importance of taking in drink.
Yeah.
This particular referee I thought had a really good tournament. Ramos, the Mexican. I think this was this referee. I looked at that and said, "You don't do that." Immediately, I've gone, "This is not right." And it isn't. In the same way that I've also mentioned what can be deemed an over-familiarization because you've got Messi. And referees, if you like, look back at the clips, you will see Messi talking to the referees. And there are some players and some managers and some spectators would say, he's buying one here. He's gaining favor. You've got to be seen. You have to be seen to be absolutely impartial. And these small pieces of actions, what we are talking about, are learning points for the referee. That referee, if he feels he requires refreshment, could quickly say to his fourth official, "Come on."
Because they're mic'd up anyway. So he could tell him to come on. There's a stoppage of play. Why not? But this kind of thing, oh my God, it's
well, let me tell you, I in that Mexican tournament, one of the referees was Marco Dorantes, the Mexican international referee. And Marco, he hadn't got a game, but he was in my dressing room. And he said to me, "It's warm out there." And I go, "Yeah." He said, "It's humid." "Yeah." He said, here is a bit of advice. And he gave me a quarter of a lemon. And he put it in my pocket and he said, "Listen, if you start to go really dry in the mouth, have a bite on the lemon." And I'll tell you, I refereed on the North American Soccer League for about 8 weeks in very humid conditions, and a lemon was in my pocket and used fairly frequently. And that's against the need to take refreshment.
And it did the job, did it?
It did the job. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, a little bugbear of mine.
But I'm in total agreement with you.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I
absolutely.
was getting a lot of stick, even from current referees and guys I've mentored and coached. And they said, "Oh, no, it's all right." I said, "No, it's not all right."
It's not.
Because if the other team is in any way suspicious, they're going to accuse you of siding with that team. And particularly and especially if you give a 50-50 decision that team's way, whose
Yeah.
water you've taken, they're going to say, "Oh, but you say he was drinking, he's got," I think it's absolute nonsense. And it's one of my bugbears. The other one, of course, I've mentioned to you already, is this shaking hands at the start of the game. And no sooner has the game started and they're down the referee's throat. Total hypocrisy, total nonsense. I would not, if I was in charge of the referees, I would say, "You guys go and shake hands with each other. Don't come near my referees. We've got to be." That's my.
I mean, that ceremony was introduced into the Premier League, and it was all about building the pre-match tension and giving television a little bit of time to get focus cameras and various other things. I'm against it myself as well. Play the national anthems, get on with the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Keith, been a great pleasure having you on. My goodness, I can't believe we're 46 minutes and
amazing.
Time has just flown past. Again, many thanks for being on every Monday. It's fantastic. I hope you'll find the time to continue.
For sure.
Next Monday, of course, is Boxing Day. And I'm certainly going to be on. If you're available, I'd love to have you again, because you sent me the list of all the Premier League matches and the referees. I'm sure there's going to be lots happening between now and next Monday. If you're available, I'd love to have you on.
Pleasure.
If for some reason you're not available, that's also okay. I really appreciate your efforts, not only today and possibly in the future, but in the past as well. Thank you also to you people out there for watching and for contributing and sending your comments. My goodness, we didn't have time to draw breath tonight, but I hope you've learned something from what we've been discussing and clarity on certain parts of the laws of the game. And if you have any comments, of course, keep them coming in. I'll be back, and please God, Keith will be back with me next Monday. It is Christmas. It is Boxing Day, or St. Stephen's Day, as we call it. But in the meantime, do have a wonderful Christmas, and most importantly, please stay safe out there. Thanks again, Keith.
Merry Christmas.
And God bless. Thanks. Merry Christmas to you too.
Thank you.